Well, hello everyone. Steve Adams here with Embracing Brokenness Ministries. I am so glad that you could join us. If you are for the first time, we are in the middle of a series entitled Sexual Brokenness in the Church. Now, this is a topic that we felt really strongly about. God has kind of called us up to expose some of the lies, some of the issues that are centered around this particular ism, if you will, if you are familiar with our terminology. It is sin. But I believe, and we believe, that in so many ways the church today has not done a good job at calling it out, having a conversation about it, and really allowing people to be more vulnerable, more open with their struggles in this area. So we've invited you into the conversation, and we've gotten many comments back from it, and we hope to do more to address some of the things that you are concerned about. But one of the key elements of this particular area of sexual brokenness is pornography. And so we have discussed that on a couple levels so far. A couple weeks ago, we attacked it from the relational level, and that would be maybe inside a marriage or a dating relationship and the devastating consequences of pornography use in that situation. Last time around, it was more a talk towards the individual, and Colleen presented something on her own that she's going to do again tonight. And so I would really encourage you to go back, if you haven't seen it, watch it from the beginning of the series, but if you just want to focus in on this particular topic of pornography, which is, again, very, very much running rampant in the church today, the statistics would blow you away. The studies we've seen, Conquer series has showed us that roughly 68% of Christian men are engaged in some use of pornography on a regular basis. So it really is something we need to address on a more critical level. So I'm going to turn it over to Colleen. This evening we are going to talk more about the victims of pornography, and this would be those that would be in this side of the camera, sex workers, people that oftentimes are misunderstood as people who love to do what they're doing and they don't. And so we're going to address that, and we're going to talk about it a little more. You'll see a couple film clips, but I'm going to turn it over to Colleen now, and we'll go from there.
Hopefully by now, after you've looked at the other couple episodes that we've done, you're getting a theme here that porn hurts people. It hurts marital relationships. It hurts individuals spiritually, and just even damages our ability to find happiness individually. But in this episode, we wanted to talk a little bit about some lesser known victims of this industry. And I think one of the misconceptions that we often hear is porn doesn't hurt anyone. It doesn't hurt the players in the industry, the sex workers, because they really love sex. They are like goddesses of sex, love to perform. They're making lots of money just to entertain us, and this is a really harmless thing. And I'm hoping that you will start to hear that the sex industry is an exploiter of individuals. It's an exploiter of both men and women. I think the other thing that's been interesting is sometimes guys will joke around, yeah, like, you know, be great to have the occupation of a porn star. And you're going to hear tonight two testimonies. One is actually going to be from one of the most prolific porn stars in the last couple decades who has left the industry, and he's starting to speak out about the damages of what porn did to himself. So I'm hoping you will start to understand that even the players in this are actually victims, and are increasingly becoming so because the sex industry has moved from a paid professional kind of industry to so much of an amateur industry. And at least in the paid professional industry, there was some type of regulation. However, I will say the hallmarks of that industry were coercion, were taking advantage and exploiting people, horrible drug use, drug abuse, and actually a lack of consent. There are many times, even in the paid industry, that you basically have rape happening in front of you and don't even realize it. And so then we fast forward to what has happened with sites like Pornhub, the largest porn online community, which is mostly amateurs. It is changing the industry radically. It is mostly amateurs. And again, there is a belief that the people on the other end of your viewing screen have consented to what has happened. And we know that in that industry, 60 to 80%, it's estimated, of the porn that's actually being uploaded onto Pornhub is sex trafficked individuals, people being coerced into having sexual relations on film. Worse yet are things like revenge porn, where consent is given in the confines of a committed relationship, and later on one of the partners takes that pornography and uploads it for the world to see. And so this whole idea of consent is actually absent in much of this industry. I think some of the interesting things to me when I start to think about the victims of both porn and sex workers, same things that connect us to prostitution, to strippers, to sex trafficked individuals of all kinds, is that there is a link in the people going into this industry who have high levels of childhood sexual abuse and trauma, and some kind of sexual trauma in their past that actually makes them susceptible to being exploited, to all sorts of things and what is produced by them on screen. We're going to look at a couple videos with some testimony of what it's been like to come out of the porn industry. But before we go into that, one of the things that I think is striking to me in the past decade, and the numbers are staggering, but people really debate some of these numbers, but of 64 million daily visitors to Pornhub a day, so 64, violence is the number one thing that people are searching for. So different kinds of violent porn. It is believed that up to 88% of all pornography that is now being downloaded has an element of violence in it. And so also to hear if it's violent, it's against women. I mean, some of the roots of just this heavy-duty, non-consensual, misogynistic world are at the roots of this kind of violence against women. And more we're seeing that being driven in the types of porn that are asked for. So imagine being the woman on the side who's, quote, consenting. She's basically having violent acts driven against her as she engages. This is very graphic, so hopefully you're not having people listen to this that are not of an age where this would be appropriate. But if you look at Pornhub's front page, that you can get an idea of what this whole free market of porn looks like. And I just want to tell you a couple of the topics that are just shocking, degrading, and these are kind of the topical areas that you can go in to view porn. And they show misogyny, they show racism, they show objectification just by reading the titles. So one of the first titles, Destroy My Teen Pussy. Another title, Hot Daughter Squirts on Her Daddy. Hot Ebony Schoolgirl. 12 weeks pregnant Heather deep throats and gets a facial after having an ultrasound. I mean, are these things that anybody can deny are just horrific destruction of the image of God in womanhood, but also in manhood? Men are not meant to objectify women. Women who are engaging and watching are not meant to be seeing this kind of destruction. And so just to even hear the kinds of topics and the kind of violence that's in them, hopefully will help you say, oh, wow, there are victims in what people are choosing to watch, or even what I'm choosing to watch if this is a problem that you're struggling with. I also want to just share a story about what happens in this whole concept of consensual. There's a woman, she was giving her testimony. She wanted to remain anonymous, but she actually had showed up to do a soft porn video needing money for college. And when she went in, the director actually handed her some pills and said, you're going to want to take these. It's Xanax and something else. It'll just help you relax. It'll make this go a lot smoother. And so she was a little surprised. She took all of the pills and additional muscle relaxant that they gave her a little bit later on. She went into her room, got all prepped. And when she came out to do the film, she got really groggy and she said, I can't go forward with this. And sat down on the side of a couch. And at that point, she was told, you need to go forward. It's okay. And I want to read the description of what happened to her, because this is rape. And this is rape before your eyes. She said, my co-star, after I sat down, immediately came out and straddled my shoulders. He slapped my face hard several times. I was so shocked. This nice guy I had just met was hitting me, and no one on the set did anything. Quickly, he started gagging me as he ripped my clothes off. The crew around me didn't stop it as I began to fight him off, literally swinging fists and screaming no. As he tore off my clothes, assaulting me and calling me profane names, I was raging and crying. When I looked over to make eye contact with the producer and beg him to stop, I was sickened to see his pleasure as he watched my abuse. Maybe it was 5 times, maybe more. My mind now refuses to remember. But the bruises and the violation of my body continue today with the memory of my filmed rape. My film violation was uploaded to the internet for the enjoyment of the masses on the world's most popular porn site. Okay? So again, this whole thing of consent, no, well, women are consenting, and even these horrible acts of rape, women have rape fantasies, that was played out before me. You know, maybe rape is actually happening on this set. Maybe consent is not given. When you have to use, and common in the industry, is tons of drugs. I mean, from muscle relaxants to pain pills to things that numb your body parts so you don't feel what's going on. There is a concern for what has mind altered and what consent truly can be. We're going to move into, I want you to hear a little bit about Greg's story. So we're going to show you this video in just a minute, but I want to kind of point out a couple things that you're going to hear in advance. A few statements that he says in this video I think are powerful. He said, I got to the point I didn't even know what love was, and I didn't even know if I could feel love anymore. He said, I couldn't feel anything anymore. I had to go to work to do the porn so that I could buy the drugs to bury the pain of doing the porn, to go to work, to do the porn, to buy the drugs, to bury my pain. This is a man saying, I've become dead inside because of what I have chosen to do. And, here's the consequences to me. I can't even feel love. He starts to talk about, all I could do is view women as complete objects. And he said, I completely lost the ability to have any kind of loving relationship. So some pretty powerful things. So let's take a listen to Greg's story and what he has to say.
I became the most popular, most decorated male adult film star of all time. The phone never stopped ringing. The money kept getting bigger and bigger. My mother had no idea. She was completely taken by storm, shocked her, hurt her. I didn't know what love was. I didn't even know if I could feel love anymore. I looked at women like objects. There was no emotion involved in the act of making love. What was that, making love? I had sex for money. I was a prostitute. I couldn't feel anymore. See, for me, I had to go to work to do the porn so that I could buy the drugs to bury the pain of doing the porn. So I'd go to work and do the porn so that I could buy the drugs to bury the pain. And around it went. What pornography did to me was it changed how I thought and felt about women. I began to look at them even more so as a sexual object. I lost the ability to have a loving and caring relationship. I thought I was still able, and I was fooled. One day, I left the set. I was done for the day, got in my car, started it up, drove 2 blocks, pulled over and turned it off. And I started to cry. I wanted out so bad. I wanted to get off that merry-go-round. It's the last movie I ever made. And I never went back. And it changed my life. It began my life. You see, if I can change my heart, anybody can.
So welcome back. I know that was a powerful portrayal from somebody who had done porn successfully for a lot of years. And I think we oftentimes don't get to hear the male perspective of what it looks like to be engaged in that industry. So even the men are victims who are engaging in this. We're going to next stop, and I want you to hear a story. It's an anonymous person, so you're just going to see the words kind of come across the screen. I think what's interesting is you're going to see some links here that we're going to talk about in our next session, and there's links between porn, sexual exploitation, drug use, and even sex trafficking that are powerfully depicted as you listen to this. So let's take a listen to this next video.
I speak from experience to say that there are victims and survivors who have been drugged and forced into this ugliness against their wills. I realize that this statement flies in the face of the mainstream, mono-thought, stereotypical mentality that porn is something that women choose, or that she likes it, she asked for it, she chose it. Although that might be true for some, many are coerced into agreeing with whatever our pornographer says just to stay alive. You know, I was drugged before each filming. Sometimes it was with an amnesiac, sometimes with a paralyzing drug, sometimes with pain blockers, sometimes a crazy combination of all of them. We lie to cover up the truth. We do not have the words to speak out because our pain is too graphic, and it's next to impossible to describe what happened to us. We're met with dismissals and denials. I'm here to tell you, some of us have succumbed to more drug addictions, some to insanity, some to crippling isolation, and some even to death.
So again, another powerful testimony of what it was like to be on that side of the consenting adult in the porn industry. I'm hoping that after just this brief time that we've had together, you are starting to realize that porn harms everyone, and there are victims all over. The lie that porn hurts nobody, but more importantly, that these victims that are actually, we think, are liking the sex and all of that is probably one of the biggest fabrications and lies. And there are many, many victims. We've talked about in marital relationships and the relational divide. We've talked about individually what's happening inside of bodies. And now we're exposing the lie that the craving and viewing that I may sit here and view porn and say, oh, nobody's harmed. I now have the knowledge to say, you know what, people on the other end of the screen are being victimized for my pleasure. It is not victimless. This is not people who do not have a whole bunch of things in their past that lead them to be exploited in this way. And, you know, it's just been a big lie. So hopefully that's been helpful to you as we continue to explore this area of sexual brokenness. Many blessings to you as you go forward in your journey.